It was 7:48 a.m. when Mia stumbled through the revolving doors of the Granton Insurance building, hair damp from rain, hands shaking, and breath uneven from sprinting the final block. She'd barely stepped into the lobby when her phone buzzed again. A missed call. Her son's school. Again. Her stomach dropped. The elevator chimed open. She stepped in with 3 others in suits. Their expressions blank, shoulders dry. One glanced down at her wrinkled blouse, the scuffed sneakers she changed into after her heels snapped running across wet pavement. No one spoke. By 7:51, she reached the 5th, and by 7:53, she was fired. "I warned you, Mia," Mr. Graham said, barely looking up from his desk. He wore a $3,000 watch and never missed his 6 a.m. gym appointment. He called it discipline. "This is the 3rd time this month." Mia's voice trembled. "Please, Mr. Graham, my sitter bailed last minute, and my son—" "I can't run a company around personal excuses," he said, sliding a termination form across the desk. "We need reliable people." "But I'm good at my job," she whispered. "You're good when you're here," he said, "but good isn't enough when others are better and punctual." And with that, it was over. Just like that. Rain poured harder as Mia stood outside, clutching the box of her things. One photo frame tilted inside, her son, Jacob, beaming up at her with missing front teeth. She wanted to cry, to scream, but she couldn't. There wasn't time for emotions. Not when rent was due in 11. Not when Jacob needed dinner. Not when no one was coming to save her. She caught the next bus with $2.75 in change and a lump in her throat that never went away. Upstairs, Mr. Graham returned to his sleek corner office and stared down at the city skyline, sipping his overpriced espresso. To him, it was just another decision. Another employee replaced. Another cog swap. He didn't think twice about Mia until the phone call came. That evening, Mr. Graham entered his luxury condo to find chaos. His sister, Valerie, sat on the edge of the couch, tears in her eyes. "It's Ethan," she said, referring to her 9-year-old son, Graham's nephew. "He collapsed at school." Graham's face paled. "What? Is he okay?" Valerie shook her head. "They think it's neurological, but they don't know what triggered it." Panic overtook his expression. He'd helped raise Ethan after their parents passed. That boy was more than blood. He was everything. "We'll get him the best doctors," Graham said. But he had no idea that best would soon mean something entirely different. 2 days later, Mia sat across from a slouched manager at a grocery store, explaining why her resume with 6 years of corporate marketing experience belonged in the stockroom. "I just need something steady," she said quietly. The manager tapped a pen. "We're full at the moment, but you can call next week." She smiled politely and left with nothing. That night, Jacob coughed violently again. The wheezing had returned. She couldn't afford the clinic. She just rocked him, whispering, "It's okay, baby. Mommy's got you." But she didn't. 3 days after Mia's firing, Mr. Graham sat in a sterile hospital waiting room, staring at MRI scans he didn't understand. The doctor entered, grave-faced. "Mr. Graham, we've consulted top specialists and we still don't have answers. Ethan's symptoms are rare. We're running out of leads." Valerie sobbed beside him. The doctor hesitated, then added, "There's one local pediatric research nurse who's seen something similar, but she left the hospital system months ago." Graham leaned forward. "Who?" The doctor checked the tablet. "Mia Dawson." Graham's jaw dropped. "What?" "She worked in pediatric care for 8 years before switching fields. Apparently, she once identified this exact neurotrigger in a similar case and got that boy into the right clinical trial. She saved his life." Graham's world spun. He had fired her days ago. Mia stood behind a church food pantry table when Graham found her. His suit was damp, his pride drenched. She turned, startled. "You?" "I need your help," he said softly. Her eyes narrowed. "You fired me." "I didn't know." "Didn't care," she interrupted. He looked down. "I was wrong." She folded her arms. "Why now?" He swallowed hard. "It's my nephew, Ethan. He's dying." There was silence. Then Mia spoke, slowly. "I got into marketing because no hospital would hire me after I took off too many days caring for my son. I left behind something I was good at, something I loved." He said nothing. "You fired me because I was late twice. But I was never late when I worked in those hospitals. I was never wrong about a diagnosis, never unprepared." Tears welled in his eyes. "I didn't know what you gave up," he whispered. "No," she said. "You didn't bother to ask." Mia saw something break in him. Not pride, not ego, genuine sorrow. And maybe that was enough. I'll help, she said finally. But not for you, for Ethan. He nodded, grateful beyond words. I understand. And for the first time, he listened. Back at the hospital, Mia moved like she never left. She reviewed Ethan's charts. His EEG is irregular but not random, she murmured. He's hypersensitive to synthetic dyes. The doctor raised an eyebrow. Mia nodded. It's rare. Missed by most. I saw this before. The school's new carpet cleaner likely triggered it. Within 48 hours, Ethan was stable. By the end of the week, he was walking. The hospital staff celebrated quietly. Valerie hugged Mia, sobbing. You saved him. But Graham stayed behind in the hallway, expression unreadable. Later that evening, he sat across from Mia outside the hospital cafeteria. I owe you everything, he said. She smiled faintly. I don't need apologies, just change. I will. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a sealed envelope. Mia frowned. What's this? Something I wasn't supposed to find. HR records. Your original file, the reason you were pushed out of the hospital system. Her heart skipped. He continued. It wasn't about your son, it was a recommendation letter from someone high up with a do not rehire flag. Mia's face went pale. I didn't know. There's more, Graham said, voice tight. He handed her a second folder. The letterhead read, Department of State Affairs Witness Relocation. Mia's hands trembled as she opened it. Inside, her name, and a different one, scratched out. Graham looked at her, eyes wide. Who are you? She didn't answer. Not immediately. Because the truth, the real truth, wasn't just about a single mother or a second chance. It was about who she used to be, and who might still be looking for her. The screen fades to black. The envelope trembled in Mia's hands. Witness relocation, she whispered. Graham's voice was hushed. That letter was flagged at the state level. You were protected. Someone tried to erase you. Mia swallowed hard. It was the only way to survive, she said finally. I didn't want this life. I didn't choose to disappear. I had to. Graham leaned in. Why? She looked up, her voice barely audible. Because I saw something I wasn't supposed to see. 5 years ago, Mia was Dr. Amelia Clark, a clinical researcher at a top pediatric neurological institute. Brilliant, rising, respected. Until the day she discovered that a private donor group, under the guise of funding children's medical trials, was funneling experimental drugs into inner-city schools without parental consent. They called it voluntary sample testing, but it wasn't voluntary, and children were getting hurt. When she threatened to go public, she was targeted. Threats, a break-in, a staged car accident that almost killed her and her then 2-year-old son. That night, she vanished. Back at the hospital, Graham sat in his office, pacing. Everything he knew about Mia, Amelia, was unraveling. He checked the documents again. The donor group, the blacklisted reports, the initials, National Pediatric Innovations. He typed it into his computer. The screen blinked. Access denied. Moments later, his phone buzzed with an unknown number. A voice spoke through static. Stop digging, or she won't be the only one who disappears. That night, Mia held Jacob a little tighter. His breathing was calm, peaceful, but her mind raced. The envelope, the letter, the name she'd buried. They'd found her once, and they might find her again. Her phone lit up. Unknown number, we know where he sleeps. She gasped, covering her mouth. Jacob stirred. Mommy? Shh, she whispered, kissing his forehead. It's nothing, sweetheart. But it wasn't nothing. It was everything she feared most. The next morning, Graham waited outside Mia's apartment. She opened the door, eyes red. They texted me, she said. I got a call too, he replied grimly. This isn't random. I told you, these people don't bluff. He pulled a folder from his coat, old photos, internal memos, funding trails. They're still operating, and I think I know who's running them now. She froze. Who? He looked her dead in the eyes. Your former mentor, Dr. Lucien Hart. Mia staggered back. No, he died in a lab fire years ago. Graham's face darkened. That's what they wanted you to believe. Later that day, Mia sat in her kitchen, silent. The microwave ticked. Jacob colored at the table, oblivious. Graham leaned against the doorway. I can help you, he said quietly, but only if you tell me everything. Mia wiped her face. If I do this, if I expose him, Jacob will never be safe. Graham paused. Then we make him safe. Together. She looked at him, the man who once fired her without a second thought, now risking everything. And she nodded. Then let's finish what I started. Mia and Graham met with a former journalist friend, Theo, who had helped leak controversial stories in the past. Using Mia's insider knowledge and Graham's company data, they set up a public-facing dummy site loaded with records of NPI's illegal testing. They planted breadcrumbs designed to lure Lucien, or whoever was controlling NPI now, into making contact. Mia watched the site's stats spike. Graham stood behind her. If this works, he whispered, he'll come out of hiding. And he did. The message came through the site's backend, an encrypted video. Mia opened it, static. Then a man's face appeared, scarred, weathered, but familiar. Hello, Amelia, the man said with a chilling smile. Lucien Hart, very much alive. I see you've been busy. But the boy, he's the one I want. Mia froze. What do you mean? Lucien leaned closer. You think Jacob's just your son? But he was born with something special, and we made sure of it before you ran. The video glitched. Then, you took something from us. Now we're coming to take it back. The screen went black, and Mia collapsed into the chair, heart pounding. Because in that moment, she realized Jacob wasn't just in danger, he was the reason they never stopped hunting her. The screen went black. Mia's hands trembled as she stared at the laptop. Graham paced the room, fists clenched. Did he say what I think he said? Mia nodded slowly, breath ragged. They experimented on my son before he was even born. Ryan, the journalist contact, stared at her, stunned. You were already pregnant when you left the program, weren't you? Mia's eyes filled with tears. I didn't know it at the time. They must have done something during those blood screenings. I thought it was routine, but it wasn't, Graham said. No, Mia whispered. It was phase 0. 7 years earlier. A sterile room. Dim lights. A young Mia, then known as Dr. Clark, sat hooked up to IVs for what she was told was a routine immunoprecautionary panel. You're on the front lines, Lucien had said with a charming smile. Let's keep you healthy. But now, looking back, the dizziness, the strange cravings, the unshakable fatigue, it wasn't normal. And days after she left the program, she found out she was pregnant. With Jacob. Back in her apartment, Mia sat beside Jacob's bed, brushing his hair softly as he slept. She studied his peaceful face. The boy who loved space and dinosaurs, who cried during sad movies and hated carrots. God, what did they do to you? She whispered. She stepped out, finding Graham in the hallway. They're not just coming for me, she said. They're coming for him. He nodded solemnly. Then we don't let them take him. The next morning, Ryan showed them an encrypted thread posted on the dark web. It was from NPI, Lucien's organization. They were offering a reward for information on Jacob's whereabouts. A reward large enough to tempt anyone. It's already viral, Ryan said. There are eyes on you everywhere. Mia's jaw tightened. Then we control the narrative. She looked at Graham. I'll go to him. What? No! Lucien wants me. He thinks I'm broken. Predictable. He'll let me get close. Graham shook his head. That's a suicide mission. It's the only chance we have to know what he's planning. Later that night, Mia uploaded a message to a secure server. To Dr. Lucien Hart, it read, You want to talk? I'm ready. 3 hours later, she received coordinates in a single line. Come alone. An abandoned research facility, the one where phase 0 began, loomed in darkness. Mia stepped inside, heart racing. Lucien appeared from the shadows. Older, his face half burned, but his eyes just as calculating. Hello, Amelia, he said smoothly. Don't call me that. You always did have a flair for defiance. What did you do to him? Lucien smiled. We gave him potential, but we lost track of him when you vanished. We've been trying to reacquire our investment ever since. He's a child, my child. No, Dr. Clark, Lucien replied. He's the property of NP. Lucien pulled a tablet from his coat and slid it across the dusty table. Footage played, lab scans, neural readings, bursts of abnormal cognitive activity. Jacob's brain is years ahead of his peers, Lucien said. Pattern recognition, memory retention, even light telepathic markers. Mia's eyes widened. You didn't just test him. Lucien leaned in. We created him. Back at Mia's apartment, Graham was reviewing surveillance footage when he noticed something odd. Ryan, the journalist, stepping out at strange hours, making encrypted calls, digging into Mia's files even when he claimed to be helping. Graham replayed a clip. Ryan slipping something into Jacob's backpack. He froze the frame. It was a tracker. His blood ran cold. He picked up the phone. Mia, it's Ryan. He's been compromised. But the call didn't go through. Only static. And then, a click on the line, followed by, too late. Inside the facility, Mia's phone buzzed. It was Jacob's sitter, hysterical. He's gone, she cried. I left the room for a second. He was just gone. Mia's breath caught. Lucien smiled, calm. I told you, Amelia. He stepped closer, whispering into her ear, you didn't come to negotiate. You came to say goodbye. The screen zooms in on Mia's trembling face and fades to black. Mia burst out of the facility's side door into the night air, gasping. She dialed Graham again, still static. She ran. Down empty alleys, through pouring rain, toward the one place she hoped had answers, Ryan. Because if Jacob was gone, and Lucien knew everything, there was only one explanation. Someone had fed them information. At Ryan's apartment, the lights were off. Mia didn't knock. She kicked the door open. Ryan sat at the kitchen table, face pale, a gun on the table. Don't, he said, voice trembling. I never meant for it to go this far. Where is he? She barked. Ryan hesitated. They promised no one would get hurt. You put a tracker in his backpack. I thought it was just a monitor. I didn't know they'd take him. Mia slammed her fist down. What did you think would happen? Tears welled in Ryan's eyes. They have a second facility, off books. Government doesn't even acknowledge it. Where? He looked up, broken. Fort Covell. Graham picked Mia up minutes later. She climbed into the car, soaked, trembling, clutching a hard drive Ryan had given her. Inside were blueprints, schedules, security layouts, and one folder labeled Project Aegis, Phase Omega. It wasn't just about Jacob anymore. Inside the second facility, dozens of children, all modified, all chosen. This is mass testing, Graham muttered. They're building something. They're building weapons, Mia said. And Jacob was their prototype. She remembered a night months ago. Jacob had been sleep-talking, murmuring numbers in sequences, coordinates, dates, patterns. She thought it was just dreams. But now, those were triggers, residual effects from what they implanted in him before he was even born. She hadn't escaped. She just postponed the program. Using Ryan's intel, Mia and Graham mapped a strategy. The fort was underground, heavily encrypted, guarded by both private security and off-duty military chroniclers. There was only one way in, and no guaranteed way out. Mia didn't blink. I'm going. Graham gripped her arm. If we go in unprepared, he's my son, she snapped. I'd rather die trying than live without him. He looked at her and nodded. Then we go together. Disguised in stolen uniforms, Mia and Graham entered the perimeter during shift change. It smelled like bleach and silence. Security swiped their fake badges without a glance. They made it down to level 3, the research wing. There, behind reinforced glass, Jacob. But not like she remembered. He stood upright, still, silent, eyes glowing faintly under dim blue lights. Hooked to wires. A doctor's voice echoed through a speaker. Cognitive programming complete. Awaiting activation command. Mia's breath caught. She slammed her hand on the glass. Jacob, she shouted. Jacob, it's Mommy. He didn't blink, didn't move. Mommy's here, she sobbed. I came for you. Please. Behind her, an alarm blared. Intruder detected, sector. Doors slammed shut. Graham raised his gun, backing into position. And then a figure stepped through the glass wall into Jacob's room. Lucien Hart, grinning, holding a small remote. One word, he said through the intercom. One word and he forgets you ever existed. His finger hovered over the button. Mia screamed. Don't. Lucien smiled. Let's see what he's really made of. He pressed the button. The screen zooms in on Jacob's eyes, turning pitch black, and fades to black. Lucien's finger clicked the remote. Inside the glass chamber, Jacob's head jolted. Wires sparked. Monitors blinked red. Mia collapsed against the glass. No, 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 no. Jacob, please look at me. He stood still, eyes open, but vacant. Mama? He murmured, almost mechanical. Mia gasped. Lucien smirked from behind the control panel. Good. The programming is holding. In a dark digital void, a younger version of Jacob stood alone, surrounded by distorted images, doctors in masks, rooms without doors, the echo of synthetic voices saying, forget, forget. But somewhere, faintly, another voice called, Jacob! He turned. A light broke through. A memory. Mia hugging him after a nightmare. Mia dancing in the kitchen with him. Mia reading the same bedtime story again and again. Mommy? The system pushed back. Race. But love is louder. Graham aimed his weapon at Lucien from the control hallway. Reverse it. Now. Lucien barely flinched. He's already gone. Mia turned to the shattered comm speaker and screamed into it. Jacob! Listen to me! They can't take your heart! They can't take your soul! You are more than what they made you. The monitor blinked. Heart rate spiked. Cognitive index. Erratic. System destabilizing, a voice droned over the intercom. Lucien's eyes narrowed. No, that's not possible. Inside the chamber, Jacob blinked once. Mama? Mia wept, sliding to her knees. He took a step forward, unsteady, pulling wires out of his arms. Lucien smashed the remote in frustration. He wasn't supposed to be able to override it, but he had, through love, through her. The chamber door hissed open. Jacob ran into Mia's arms, trembling. You came, he whispered. Always, she said. As alarms blared and emergency lights flashed, Graham shouted, We have to go now. But as they turned to flee, screens in the hallway flickered on, displaying multiple biometric profiles. Children, dozens of them. Lucien didn't just want Jacob, Graham realized. He used Jacob's DNA to stabilize the others. On one screen, a headline, NPI set to announce Youth Advancement Program, exclusive trials for elite families. Mia's voice was quiet. He's turning children into assets and selling them. They raced through the lower levels, avoiding security with Jacob in Mia's arms. Graham uploaded files to an encrypted cloud server. This is our only shot. If we die, at least the truth survives. But just as they reached the garage, a black van screeched in. Men with tactical gear jumped out. One shouted, Take the boy! Mia held Jacob tighter. Lucien stepped out behind them, unfazed. I always knew you'd try to run, he said. But you see, Jacob isn't just yours. He pointed at Jacob's neck, a glowing blue scar pulsing beneath his skin. He's ours. Suddenly, Jacob's body jolted again. His pupils dilated. He dropped to his knees, shaking. Mia tried to hold him, but he pushed her back, trembling violently. Mama, something's wrong inside me. Lucien whispered to the guards. They activated the failsafe. Graham raised his gun. What did you do? Lucien smiled coldly. He's linked to every prototype in the system. If he shuts down, they all do. Mia screamed as Jacob collapsed into seizures, eyes rolling back. Graham lunged for Lucien. Jacob whispered through bloodied lips, Mommy, I don't want to hurt you. And the screen fades to black. Jacob convulsed in Mia's arms, foam at his lips, his eyes unfocused. The sirens in Fort Covell screamed overhead, red lights flashing like war drums. Graham screamed into his comm, We need extraction now. Lucien watched coldly from across the garage. You can either save your son or shut down the system, he said calmly. But not both. Mia was sobbing. Jacob, stay with me, please. Inside the van, they connected to a secure server Graham hacked earlier. On the dashboard screen, 2 commands. System termination will shut down all neural links and prototypes. Node severance will isolate Jacob and kill him. He's the source node, Graham whispered. Kill the network or lose your son. Mia stared at the options. I can't. Her fingers hovered over the screen. But Jacob's voice, weak. Mom, if I'm the reason they're hurting other kids, you have to stop it. No, she said, sobbing. You're just a child. He gripped her hand. I want to be free. Lucien pulled a device from his coat pocket. I can end this now. One signal and all prototypes, including your son, are wiped. He showed her the screen, 60 seconds ticking down. I'm giving you a choice, he said. You either do it on your terms, or I do it on mine. Mia remembered the night Jacob was born. Tiny, fragile, alive. She had whispered to him in the quiet hospital room, I'll protect you from everything, even the things I can't see. And now, the monster was in front of her. Not just Lucy, but the very choice he forced into her hands. Suddenly, Graham spoke. There might be a third option. Mia's head whipped around. I've been working on a neural override, he said. It could sever Jacob from the system without killing him. But it's unstable. If it fails, he could lose his memory, his speech, or worse. Mia looked at Jacob. His eyes, his soul, were still there. "Do it," she whispered. Graham connected the device. "I'll need time." Lucian smirked. "You don't have it." A countdown hit. Graham's fingers flew across the keyboard. Jacob shook violently as the override uploaded. Monitors sparked. Sparks flew. "Come on, come on!" Lucian raised his device. Mia pointed her weapon at him. "Don't." "Would you really shoot me?" he asked. "For my son?" She cocked the gun. "Twice." "Upload complete," Graham shouted. Then silence. Jacob's body went limp. Mia screamed. "Jacob!" Suddenly, his chest heaved. He gasped, eyes wide. "Mom?" She grabbed him, sobbing with relief. "I'm here, baby, I'm here." But Lucian began to laugh. "You think you've won?" He pulled out a second device, far more dangerous. This wasn't about control. It was about seeding. He pressed a hidden button, and somewhere inside the van, a new monitor lit up, showing a video from a hospital room. A nurse holding a baby. The date 7 years ago.
And the nurse's face.
"Mia." Lucian leaned closer to the monitor. "Jacob was never yours to begin with." The screen fades to black. The van screen flickered as the grainy hospital footage looped. A nurse handed Mia a baby. But she wasn't smiling. She looked confused, then afraid, then gone. Graham watched from the corner, his jaw tight. Mia trembled. "I don't remember this." Lucian's voice came over the intercom. "That's because we wiped it." Lucian stepped out from the shadows, calm, collected, and cruel. "You weren't just a whistleblower, Amelia. You were our best asset." Mia stared at him. "What are you talking about?" Project Aegis was built on empathy, bonded care, real affection. We didn't just want test subjects. We wanted emotional connections to drive neural development. "You used me?" "We implanted the embryo. You believed Jacob was yours, and that belief, that love, activated his most human programming." Mia's voice broke. "He is mine." Lucian smiled. Not by blood, not by law, but perhaps by accident. Mia sat in the dark later that night, cradling Jacob. He slept soundly, unaware. She flipped through old baby photos, ultrasounds, even hospital paperwork. Everything felt real, because it was to her. But now she questioned it all. Did she ever carry him? Was every document forged? Were her memories even her own? Graham returned with a decrypted copy of the server Lucian tried to erase. Inside, a classified file labeled Jacob.x Tier 7 Protocols, Backup Integration Source.
What is this?
Mia asked. Graham looked uneasy. It's a contingency. If the system was ever compromised, Jacob wasn't just a node. Mia's eyes widened. He was a failsafe. More than that, Graham said, he's the only one who can restart the program. Mia's stomach turned. They built the destruction key inside him. The next morning, Jacob woke up different, quieter, more distant. He looked at Mia with a blank stare, then said, "Why do I feel like I'm not real?" Mia dropped to her knees. "You are, baby. You are." But he shook his head. "Sometimes, it feels like I'm watching me from the outside." A pause. Like someone else's, steering. Graham pulled up satellite footage of Lucian's fallback lab, hidden in the mountains north of the city. "That's where he's taking the remaining prototypes," he said. "If he reaches them, he'll use Jacob to reboot the entire network." Mia stood. "Then we stop him before he gets there." Graham hesitated. "There's one more thing." He handed her a small flash drive. "It's the final kill switch. It can erase Jacob's link permanently, but it might destroy his memory." Mia stared at it. "That's the only way to keep him free." Graham nodded slowly. "And it may be the only way to stop Lucian." Just before leaving, a new message pinged their encrypted server. It was from Lucian, a live feed. Mia clicked it. Lucian stood inside the mountain facility, surrounded by pods, each one holding a child. Behind him, a massive server hub, glowing red. He smiled. "You can come, Amelia. You can try to stop me." He pointed to one pod slowly powering up. "But just know this." The camera panned to the chamber's nameplate. Prototype 001 Jacob Clark, original. Mia's blood went cold. "You never rescued him," Lucian whispered. "Because the real Jacob never left." And the screen fades to black. The SUV climbed the narrow mountain road under the cover of dusk. Mia sat in the back seat, silent. Jacob leaned against her shoulder, his hand in hers. He didn't speak. She didn't ask him to. Because deep inside, she didn't know if she was holding her son or a perfect copy of someone she hadn't met yet. Graham drove, eyes scanning the winding path. "We're 20 minutes out," he said. Mia stared out the window and whispered to herself, "I don't care who he is, he's mine." Lucien stood before the pod. His voice was calm, cold, vital stable, neural map intact, emotional matrix dormant. The boy inside stirred, eyes fluttering open for the first time in 7 years. He looked up at Lucien, dazed. "Where's my mom?" he asked weakly. Lucien tilted his head. "You'll meet her soon." He walked away, smiling. "She just doesn't know who you are yet." Mia and Graham infiltrated the lower level of the facility using a stolen access badge. They found the prototype room, and there behind reinforced glass, another Jacob. He sat up slowly, staring at her through the glass. "Mama?" Mia stepped back, her world spinning. Jacob, her Jacob, stood behind her. Frozen! 2 voices. Same face, same eyes. "Who is he?" Jacob whispered. Mia couldn't answer, because she didn't know anymore. Lucien entered the chamber, gleaming, confident. "You wanted the truth? Here it is." He gestured to the pod. "This is prototype 001, the original. You carried him for 9 months, loved him, sang to him." Then he pointed to the boy behind Mia. "But you lost him." Her heart sank. "No," Lucy continued. "During the escape, we uploaded his consciousness into a neural clone, an emergency failsafe. You raised the cop." Mia turned to Jacob, her Jacob, who stood frozen in disbelief. "I'm not real," he whispered. "I remember everything," Jacob said. "Your lullabies, your laugh, the day I broke my arm, the way you held me when I cried." Mia stepped forward. "You are real. You are. But if he's me, and I'm him," he looked at the pod, "then who am I now?" Lucien smirked. "You're the version that loved her, that needed her." "Enough," Mia shouted. "You don't get to define him." Lucien raised his voice. "Then choose, Amelia. The original body or the soul you saved." Graham, standing quietly, spoke. "There's a third option." He pulled out a small silver case, a data integration key. It can merge the clone's memory into the original host. The 2 Jacobs can become one. Mia gasped. "You never told me that." "It wasn't finished, but now it's all we have." Lucien's face darkened. "That's not possible. That key was destroyed." "I rebuilt it," Graham said. "And I won't let you erase what Mia gave him." Mia turned to both boys. "You don't have to choose between existing or disappearing. You both deserve to live." She inserted the integration key into the console. The system whirred to life. But suddenly, alarms blared. Red lights flashed. Lucien backed away, pulling a small detonator from his coat. "You think I'd let you steal back my creation?" Mia raised her weapon. "Don't!" But Lucien smirked. "This place collapses in 5 minutes. Let's see if your maternal instincts are faster than falling ceilings." Mia raced to the pod. The original Jacob's breathing was shallow. She turned to her Jacob, who reached out and grabbed her hand. "Mom, I'm scared." Tears filled her eyes. She looked at the console. The integration upload needed 90 seconds to finish, but the ceiling was already cracking. Smoke filled the lab. Graham shouted, "We have to go now." Lucien vanished into the fire. Mia turned back and forth between the 2 boys. One alive and trembling, the other unconscious but containing her son's original body. The upload beeped. 050. Jacob looked up at her. "Mama, if you only have time to save one of us." The screen zooms in on Mia's panicked, tear-streaked face. Mia's hands hovered over the console. Sparks flew from the ceiling. Graham yelled over the noise, "If we wait, we all die." But Mia didn't move. She looked at her Jacob, wide-eyed, trembling, then at the original in the pod, still breathing but lifeless. "I love you both," she whispered. Jacob clutched her hand. "You always said I was brave." Mia choked back sobs. "You are." She placed a hand on the glass pod, then inserted the neural sync drive. The screen blinked. "Merge memory into original host?" She paused, then pressed Y. A low hum filled the lab. Jacob's eyes fluttered as the sync began. Mia turned to her son, the one who stood beside her. "I don't know what's going to happen," she said, "but whatever comes next, you'll still be mine." He nodded. Tears ran down his face. "I know." Graham shouted, "We have to go." Mia grabbed Jacob's hand as flames licked the walls. The pod's doors hissed open, a bright pulse bursting from within. The integration finished, and they ran, carrying the unconscious body down the corridor as everything behind them collapsed. An explosion rocked the mountain. And then, silence. Smoke billowed into the night sky. An extraction drone landed in a clearing, and Graham waved it down. Mia clung to both Jacobs, one limp, the other clinging to her. She looked at Graham. Did it work? He didn't answer right away. I don't know. 3 days later, in a private recovery center, Jacob lay in a hospital bed, monitored closely. He stirred. Mia leaned in. Jacob? His eyes opened. Mama? Her breath caught. She smiled. Yes, baby. I'm here. He sat up slowly. I had the strangest dream, like I was in 2 places at once. She touched his face. You're here now? That's all that matters. Later that evening, Graham ran another scan on Jacob's neural interface. Something was off. His brain activity, it's doubled. What does that mean? Mia asked. I think, Graham hesitated. There might be 2 consciousnesses inside him now. Mia stared at Jacob through the glass. He was smiling, playing, normal. But was he still the boy she raised? Or something else? A week passed. No trace of Lucien. His body wasn't recovered from the wreckage. And the server logs, wiped clean. Until one encrypted signal pinged from a secure satellite channel. A blurry video appeared. Lucien, burned, bloodied, but alive. Phase 1 failed, he said coldly. But the boy has served his purpose. Phase 2 begins now. Mia returned home with Jacob. Life felt normal, for now. But as she tucked him into bed that night, she noticed something strange on his drawing pad. A series of numbers. Coordinates? She asked. What's this, honey? Jacob looked up, blinking. I don't know. I just dreamt them. Graham ran the numbers. His face turned pale. Mia, this isn't over. The coordinates pointed to a remote government server hub, one tied to global health records. And Jacob had drawn it before he even woke up. The camera zooms in on the numbers scribbled in red crayon. Mia stared at the red crayon scribbles. Long strings of numbers, patterns she didn't understand. Graham ran them through 3 separate databases. And every time, the results were the same. Coordinates, password strings, access protocols. All tied to Nexus, the encrypted global system that houses biometric records for millions. It's a cyber kill switch, Graham muttered. If those numbers are activated, it could erase the digital identities of entire populations. Mia whispered, and Jacob knows them. In a secure medical chamber, Jacob sat with a therapist. Do you ever hear voices when you sleep? The doctor asked. Jacob nodded slowly. They don't sound like mine. What do they say? Jacob hesitated. They say, finish what was started. Graham accessed a final encrypted file Lucien had hidden on a clone drive. It revealed everything. Lucien had embedded a self-propagating AI trigger inside Jacob's neural map. The code wasn't active yet, but if Jacob ever accessed a government terminal connected to Nexus, the trigger would activate, and Lucien's virus would erase global data in minutes. He was never meant to destroy Jacob, Graham said. He meant for him to become the weapon. There was only one solution. A surgical override, a deep neural purge to eliminate the embedded trigger. But the price? Jacob's memory, his emotional history, everything he built with Mia. Graham warned, if we do this, the boy you love might not come back. Mia sat by Jacob's bed, watching him sleep. She remembered the scraped knees, the midnight laughs, the way he once held her hand just to feel safe. He was her world. And now she might have to lose him to save the world. The next morning, Mia entered the chamber. Jacob looked up, calm. I know what you're thinking, he said softly. You always know, she smiled. I saw it in a dream, the choice you'd have to make. Mia bit her lip. If we erase it, I might lose you. He took her hand. You'll never lose me. Not really. Tears ran down her cheeks. I love you. I love you too, Mama. They began the neural purge. Jacob was sedated. Graham ran the override. Lines of code flickered across the monitor, fragments of memories, emotional pulses, faces and phrases that defined a childhood. Then, black. The machine shut down. Jacob lay still. Mia held his hand the whole time. 3 weeks later, Jacob opened his eyes in a small recovery cottage outside the city. Mia leaned in. He looked at her, puzzled. Hi, he said, softly. She smiled. Hi. Do I know you? She nodded slowly, swallowing pain with grace. I'm someone who's going to love you for the rest of your life. He tilted his head. Are you my mom? She hesitated, then nodded again. Yes, sweetheart, I am. And he reached for her hand. Graham released the entire NPI archive to international media. Lucien's experiments, the evidence of Jacob's manipulation, the Phase 2 protocols. Governments shut down Nexus. Emergency reforms were passed. Victims came forward. The world changed. But quietly, behind all the noise, a boy and his mother started over. One evening, Jacob and Mia sat on the porch of the cottage, watching the sunset. He drew in his sketch pad. A tree, a house, a woman holding a child's hand.
What's that?
Mia asked. He shrugged. Just something that feels true. She smiled. It was. Sometimes, love isn't about blood or memory. It's about choosing someone again and again, even when the world tells you to let go. Mia didn't just save her son. She gave him a second chance at being human. The child you raise may not come from you, but they can still belong to you in the deepest way. Because family isn't always made through history. Sometimes it's made through healing. What did this story teach you about unconditional love, sacrifice, and what makes someone truly your own? Would you make the same choice Mia did? Tell us in the comments, and if this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe. Because sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones about love choosing to stay.